Welcome to Front Office Pros. Super Wild Card Weekend has come to a close, and Joe and I are here to give our reactions to some standouts that we believe could have an impact from a dynasty perspective.
Hike!
So, Joe, which player stood out to you on Super Wild Card Weekend?
Yeah, so a guy that really stood out to me was rookie wide receiver Rashee Rice. I know he's been impressive over the season and been, the one reliable target for this Kansas City offense. But with the opposing defense knowing that and not being able to take this guy away, I mean, he had 12 targets, 8 catches, 130 yards, and a touchdown. And what really impressed me was you saw other guys, especially Travis Kelce, struggling to catch the ball in the cold weather, but Rashee Rice had no issues. I mean, away from his body, all hands, no problems catching it into those cold, frigid temps, and was really impressive to me.
We've seen Rashee Rice really take a step forward in the second half of the season. And I think maybe some would say it's jumping to conclusion, but from a dynasty perspective, you have to ask yourself, did he possibly receive the baton from Kelce? I mean, he looks like the number one option right now in this pass offense.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Kelce was still getting his opportunities, inconsistent catching it, but still was getting it. What will be interesting to look out from a dynasty perspective is, that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to revamp this wide receiver room, and how might that affect him going forward?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a possibility because there really hasn't much been. There's not really a big supporting cast surrounding him. You had hopes for Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney. These guys are now obvious busts. I mean, they just haven't done anything all year. Rashee Rice comes in as a rookie, and we gave Sky Moore a pass, and Rashee Rice has obviously passed him by. So I think it's possible, but regardless, so I don't see it. I don't see it changing anytime soon, even if they do bring somebody in.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying somebody. I mean, I think they're going to bring in possibly multiple guys. I mean, this wide receiver core needs a complete overhaul. I mean, Kadarius Toney, you can't rely on with his health. MVS, we've seen him just unreliable. You can't catch him. He's great at getting open, but as we've seen with Green Bay and in Kansas City now, it just can't hang on to the ball. So, whether it's the draft or free agency, multiple guys are going to be brought into this wide receiver room and overhaul it and help. Patrick Mahomes for once actually needs help.
According to Keep Trade Cut, right now he's at 21 for a wide receiver. I think that's too high or too low. You got Jackson Smith and Jigba at 20, Zay Flowers 19, Drake London 18, Jordan Addison 17, Michael Pittman 16, Tank Dell 15. I think it's too low.
Yeah, it probably is. I think, partially just because it took him a little bit to get going. But like you said, from the second half on, he's really picked up, and just see Patrick Mahomes really trust him, and he trusts him more than these other wide receivers. So you got to like that. And yeah, I mean, really like JSN as a prospect, but you still, I mean, Tyler Lockett, we presume is going to be gone. Still got DK Metcalf. He's not like the true number one. I mean, Rashee Rice, even if they bring someone in, still has the chance to be the number one guy with the true familiarity in the offense. And Andy Reid's system is not an easy one to pick up either.
So my first standout from Super Wildcard Weekend is going to be wide receiver Puka Nacua. He had 10 targets, 9 catches, 181 yards, and a touchdown. And Joe, maybe it's because I haven't seen enough Rams games, but it was staggering the difference between how he was used in the offense compared to Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp basically just ran a drag route the whole time. I mean, if anything, he looked like a decoy. He wasn't even that much used in the offense. And this was back a few years ago when Cooper Kupp was the offense with him and Stafford. Puka Nacua is just clear and ahead, much farther ahead in my view than Cooper Kupp in this offense. I mean, he is such a vital component. And for me, I guess I'm left asking myself, like, how is this guy not a top 5 dynasty wide receiver? I just don't know what more you'd want to see at this point. I know I have my own hesitation with it, but I got to check my bias and check it at the door. But it's like I get he was a 5th-round pick, but besides that, why would you not want this guy? Stafford peppers him with targets. We already heard from Stafford's wife that he's coming back next year. So as
Yep.
long as Stafford is back, which sounds like he's gonna, like, why would you not want this guy? Like, I mean, I know people, you got Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, you know, in my view, it's like, I feel like I don't like it, but it's like everything would show me that Puka should be considered higher and better.
Oh, 100%. I don't think there's any doubt. He's potentially a top 5 guy right now. And that's not just recency bias. And yes, if this game surprised you, that shows me you didn't watch enough Rams games, because this is just how the offense has been operating. Puka's absolutely electric, and what he can do after the catch is just special. He's just so strong, so tough to bring down. And that's where I give him the edge over, those other guys. You mentioned guys like Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave. They don't play big like Puka does. Like, they have to be in, burn a guy to get the deep balls and to get those long touchdowns. Puka doesn't. I mean, Matthew Stafford too. It really helps to have him. He just hits them right in stride, and he runs these simple little slants or drag routes. Matthew Stafford hits him in stride, and he can house them.
Yeah, I think a part of the reason why maybe you're a little more familiar with his game is that you picked him up early on with Fab in fantasy and just followed him the rest of the season. I didn't have any exposure to him at all. So, I mean, I would follow along. But when you have somebody on your team, you have extra time of spending and looking into him and see how well he's doing. But I think I just was surprised. Cooper Kupp was injured for most of the year, or at least he was hampered by, I believe it was a hamstring. So now that I thought he was a little more fully healthy, I thought, okay, maybe it's going to get more balanced or maybe lean towards Cup. And didn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think Cup is kind of just like he's taken the step back. It looks like he possibly, lost a step with all these injuries he's had to battle back from now. And he just seems to be kind of like that reliable guy when they need a play, on a third down, or you saw him getting a lot of the red zone targets. And I think that's just kind of the transition to the type of player that he might be. And Puka's that explosive player that Cup used to be.
Well, and as far as Cup goes, I have no interest in him. To me, he's just a name value. That's all. He's just a name, and so someone's going to look and be like, "Oh, you want to trade Cooper Cup, or you're looking to get rid of Cooper Cup," and people are going to be enamored by his name. But in my view, maybe it's too reactionary on my part. But at this point, I just don't have a lot of confidence in him going forward.
Yeah, I don't know if it's too reactionary. I mean, even when, we looked at the stats in the last month of the season, and Puka Nacua led the way in the Rams target share. And that's even to your point of Cooper Kupp being back in the offense and back from injury at that point as well. And he still had the highest amount of targets in this offense. So, yeah, I just think it's potentially the Puka show going forward here.
So are you enjoying this video so far? Well, if you are, show your support to our new channel by hitting the subscribe button and liking this video. We'll be creating videos all NFL season long, so you're not going to want to miss what we have in store. So Joe, who was your other standout from Super Wildcard Weekend?
Yeah, and being this is from a dynasty perspective, I'm going to go with quarterback Jordan Love. I was extremely impressed with him to go on the road to Dallas against what people would say is a great defense and was the number 2 defense, and absolutely just put on a show and dismantled them right from the first drive. I mean, passer rating of 157.2, 3 touchdowns, 272 yards. Sure, his yardage total wasn't, too high, but did what he had to, and team did so well that he didn't even need to play a lot of the fourth quarter, else he could have had more yards as well. But the last few weeks of the season, Jordan Love was one of the best quarterbacks in the league from a statistical standpoint, and especially in the touchdown category. I mean, he finished the last 5 games with multiple touchdowns, and I really like his prospect going forward. Just his composure, his athletic ability as well and just buying time. I mean, a lot of those big plays in that game, Micah Parsons or a defender was right in his face, and he just adjusts his body and was able to throw the passes on target. And he's got a bunch of young receivers that he just spreads the ball around to. Doesn't have any divas on the team. Doesn't have to worry about wide receivers saying, "Oh, why didn't you get me the ball?" These guys don't really care, and I think Packers, once again, man, this organization seems to know how to find quarterbacks, and Jordan Love is looking like another one of those guys.
He was a guy that we were expecting touchdown regression or, possibly maybe more turnovers as the year went on. And I'd say and football's a grind. You can't look at just a few weeks as enough sample size to either say yay or nay on a player. It really was like this for Love. It went up like a roller coaster, went down, and then it came back up, right? Because there was that middle piece that he kind of was like faltering. I was like, maybe Love isn't that good. But like you said, he kind of, started to really, tear it up these past few weeks heading into the playoffs. Now he did what he did on Super Wildcard Weekend. So, and really his supporting cast, good. I don't think great. I think it's solid. It's young. It's a good core, like you're saying, to build around. But it's not like he has an elite option that he's working with. So really good first year for Jordan Love. And if you invested in him or you held on him, or maybe you acquired him at some point because that Love owner was like, let me try to get as much as I can, I think it's paying dividends for you.
Yeah, definitely is. I mean, everyone is just so easy to write this guy off as a bust. And what are the Packers going to do once Rodgers moves on? And, basically everyone judging him off of that one game that he started in Arrowhead against the Chiefs and didn't look great. But people wrote him off from there. But, man, he's just showing the growth and maturity and really understands Matt LaFleur's system here as well.
So my last standout from Super Wildcard Weekend is going to wide receiver Devonta Smith or Devontae Smith. I can never know. Some say Devonta, some say Devontae. I don't know. But regardless, he had 12 targets, 8 catches for 148 yards. And you could say, well, that's of course he did that. A.J. Brown, was inactive for the game. He had a knee injury. But I want to lean into that a little bit more. I am very concerned about this Eagles team as a whole. I mean, their psyche is completely just broken. I don't know. They just went on an absolute just pitfall. I don't know what happened to them. They just dive bombed. And A.J. Brown, I think, is becoming a real problem. There were rumors that alleged that he was kind of stirring up a bunch of trouble within the locker room. And he wanted the ball. We talked about this earlier in the year, Joe. He demanded the ball earlier in the year, and so they kind of force feeding him the ball. He's removing anything affiliated with the Eagles from his Instagram, deactivated his Twitter. I mean, maybe they'll bring AJ Brown back around and he'll be all right. But I think it's actually a really possible consideration that AJ Brown is gone from the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't know if they can continue forward and rectify the relationship between him and the Eagles brass and Jalen Hurts ultimately. So if that's the case, which I think it could be, I think that who's going to take over? You saw Devonta Smith did really, really well. I don't think he's going to be the only guy. They'll probably bring somebody else in. But with everyone's attention on A.J. Brown, I think it could be a good opportunity to kind of swoop in and see if you can't, try to, see if you can't acquire Devonta Smith, because I like his potential. He's a former first-round pick out of Alabama. He's a good player. It's just he's overshadowed by Brown, but I don't know. I'm concerned about this whole AJ Brown business, Joe.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, AJ Brown said it's either me or Hurts. So we'll see how the Eagles want to.
He said that?
Yes, he has said that it's me or Hurts, essentially, and that's kind of the ultimatum he was giving.
When did that come out? I totally missed that.
I don't know. I mean, some point this week. So we'll see what happens on that standpoint. And
wow,
with the way this loss is, I think the Eagles are in for just an all-new haul. I could easily see Sirianni getting fired here.
I could too.
It's obvious that they really miss their coordinators, and that's kind of what made this thing run. But, yeah, I've been telling you since week 2, that Minnesota Vikings game, I told you they had an A.J. Brown problem. I mean, that was a game they absolutely destroyed the Vikings. And guess who had a good game? Devonta Smith. He had a great game in that one. And Hurts was spreading the ball around. Then ever since then, they force-fed him the ball. Sure, A.J. Brown had some good games. They were winning games all fine and dandy. But then you just saw, if you watched the tape, him looking, Hurts looking to Brown first, missing Devonta Smith and other guys just wide open on other parts of the field. But he was only looking towards A.J. Brown and was just missing open guys. And to me, that was really the difference in, how they were just moving the ball so easily last year and this year version of Jalen Hurts. Just missing open guys and not seeing the whole field like I thought he was doing last year. So it'll be really interesting to see how they kind of move forward. And, Jason Kelce probably isn't coming back after the way this season ended either. And that'll really hurt amongst this offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, it's a part of it. We've got the playoffs, and then we've got the off season, and the off season's afoot. It's going to keep going. And part of me is like, am I really ready for the NFC East, drama? Basically going to be a soap opera with the Cowboys and the Eagles, because both of them actually imploded in the playoffs. And I think both coaches could be on the way out, like you said, because I think the Eagles' performance was pathetic. And I don't, Eagles are, they have a short leash when it comes to coaches. So that team could definitely be changing. And I'm nervous about Hurts too. And it's I mean, without Steichen, man, things are not looking as good.
No, I just think that's the thing. I think if they move on from Sirianni, they're going to have, if they want to move forward with Hurts, they're going to have to figure out a guy, somebody to coach him up and kind of get the best out of him and figure out what Steichen was doing and kind of recreate that, honestly, because clear that they missed that and they had a nice relationship. And even from the defensive side, I mean, they really, as much as Eagle fans wanted a new defensive coordinator, I bet you they would have taken, Gannon back in a second now. With the way that played out too. But at the end of the day, not even security Dom on the sideline could help him against help them against the Buccaneers. Hey, all I heard all week, man, was Dom's back on the sideline.
It's so stupid.
They're 10-1 with Dom on the sideline.
Oh, brother, it's so stupid. Nevertheless, it's one of those things. These are some things that you got to pay attention to. Even though the fantasy football season's over, if you play in Dynasty, there's you got to anticipate stuff that could happen and try to take advantage of it. Because once it's already happened, then it's too late. So you have to key in on these things. And like I said, the off season's afoot. Some of this stuff is going to start trickling in. Only one team can win the Super Bowl, and everybody else has to deal with the aftermath. But that's some standout players from Super Wildcard Weekend. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.